Hey everyone, welcome back to AK Academy. Ahmed Muzaffar is here, and welcome to TicketsBasket. I know it has been a long time, and maybe the ones who are following with this course have already gave up on it because I haven't seen that big number of interactions. So I've said, okay, maybe it's a better idea to terminate this course. But fortunately, in the last month, I have received tons of emails that requires to, hey, like, if you can continue this course, that's going to be great. And many thanks for those people who reached out for those emails and for everyone who continued. And really sorry for stopping it like this, but it was some work in addition to the number of interactions and rates. But it seems like there is a chance. So this is why I'm gonna go with it until the end. Even if I started with the new courses, this one will be continued, and I will stay on it. So to continue with this course after that long time, what we have to do before doing anything is actually making some refactoring for some stuff to make it in a better way so we can build on top of it. One of those things that we have to do is basically to implement, if we go right now, we have only one business service, which is our user profile service. There is one thing that's right and wrong, but most probably it's not implemented in the better way, which is those business services, they shouldn't retrieve, like, we should get rid of this operation response, and we should retrieve just the DTO that we are dealing with. Like, for example, get profile by user ID, it should just return user profile detail. So what we have to do basically over here is to implement an error handling mechanism and to create a set of exceptions. So instead of returning an error, what we do is basically we throw an exception. So that exception then retrieved back to the client as a unified type, for example, called API error response or whatever it is. And so whenever anything goes wrong or breaks the flow of this function, we just go ahead and throw an exception, and the other way, we just retrieve the right data that we are looking for. So for this, what we have to do, first, I'm gonna go to the shared, and in responses, we already have this operation response that has message, record, and this success, and I'm going to go ahead and create an operation error response. You can call it whatever you want, and this one will also contain message. It will contain pull a success, which is going to be by default false. And here we will have an array of errors in case we want to pass some set of errors. So let's create constructor that takes a success equals false, and another one for message. Generate constructor, so this message, and we want to call this, which means call this one, which will set its success to false, and the other one is going to basically set message and errors. So let's go ahead and click on create generate field constructor. That's good. And here, let's call this. So always the success is set to false. And what we are going, maybe we can do here the same. Let's create a default one, and then create a one that takes message, generate constructor, then constructor that takes those two, and always let's set a success here for true all the time, and again call this. Call this. So that's great. Now, as you can see here, we have two shared fields. So let's create a public operation, public class, base response, and we can put the message, we can put the pull here, and then from here we can just inherit from base response here, and here as well. And we can remove them from here. So we have a more compact version of those classes, which is much better. So let's move them into other files. Okay, that's great. So if you take a look here right now, we have base response, operation error response, and operation response, and we will have later on a collection response or page list or whatever it is. So that's great. Now let's go ahead and go to the infrastructure project and create a set of exceptions that we are going to use across the system. So for now, in every case we go through, we create an exception for it. Until now we just have, or we have like not found exception, and we have like field is required exception, and we have, in addition for that, if we go to the storage, Azure Blob Storage, here, yeah, bad image format and not supported exception. We are going to change this one to use not supported exceptions, like both going to retrieve not supported, and here we're going to say image file is not supported for the extension, and we pass the extension here. So for the image, use not supported. And so yeah, now in this exceptions, I'm going to create a generic exception or a general one called bad request exception. So this is our main exception. This one is going to be the base for all the exceptions that we are going to use across our services. So this one is going to be very simple. It will just take a message and pass this message to the parent constructor, and this is it. So this is the first exception we are going to have, and the second one is not found exception, bad request exception. So all our custom exception will inherit from this one, and can pass here a message base, and we also pass this message to the top. This is what we are going to use. So let's move it to another file, and I will create another exception called, I will call it business or validation exception. It will inherit from this one. So here we go. Right now we have those three exceptions. Now let's save this as well. And before fixing this one, let's go to the server project, which is TicketsBasket.api. And within this middlewares, I will create a new middleware, call it error handling middleware. So error handling middleware, just like this. So this is the malware that's going to be used. Already ASP.NET Core gives this one here, but we are going to remove it and use our own. This malware is going, whenever any error happens across the system, it will be handled over here, so we can log it using the application insights. This is what we are going to do. And another thing we are going to do as well is to retrieve a unified error, whatever is happening. So let's go ahead, and within this one, we should, of course, request delegate like this, call it next, push this for here, request delegate next, and over here, as you can see, we already have implemented the previous middleware, which is the custom identity middleware. Every middleware should have this request delegate and should have this invoke async. So basically what we are going to do is to create public async task, invoke async, HTTP context, and here we go. So basically this middleware, what it does, so in ASP.NET Core, middleware take the request, it should either retrieve the response from here or pass this request for the other one. And this is what we are going to do. So I'll say await next dot invoke and pass the context for it. So this one, what's going to happen is okay, just pass for the next one. But whenever anything happens in those, it will be catched over here. So it's one generic place to do this. And here we'll type void add async task handle exception async, and it will take this exception, add the parameter. So this is what we have right now. So let's check the type of this exception. Let's check what type. So we will have a switch, we'll say EX, and here we are going to check if this one is a bad request exception from the exception that we have created. Then in this case, here we will create HTTP status code string error message. Let's have this one by default bad request and have this one by default nothing, just keep it empty. And so then in this case, set the error message equals e.message and status code equals to bad request as it is. Let's rename this one. There is a let's type something over here, then a break. So also, here we can let's remove this e. So let's just check the type, and here let's use ex because it's already one exception. So we are going to retrieve bad request in case it's bad request exception, whatever it is. It's a not found exception, a validation exception, or bad request exception itself, or any other type that we are going to create, or also if it's of type not supported exception. So in those both cases, do this. In the other case, which is any other case other than this, then error message is something went wrong, and the status code is going to be internal server error, which is 500, and this one is 400, like something wrong on the level of the user. And so here we have the error message, we have the status code. So what we do, let's create error response, operation error response. So the message is error message, just like that. Now var content as a string. Let's translate this one or serialize this one into a JSON object, like that. So we have it in JSON. So the last thing it should do is, because if there is any error happens over here and it's handled using the handle exception async, what we should do is just retrieve that error back. So there is back to the client, nothing more to do. So I will type, we should pass also the context here, HTTP context, and this context will be dot response dot status code equals status code, yeah, this one is not awaitable. And context, this one is integer, so let's change it to, translate it to integer. Dot response. No, let's not clear that. Just directly set content type equals application slash JSON, then context dot response. To write async, we should write the content of this one. And it's awaitable. So this one will retrieve this back to the client, and it's going to be done. I don't think there is anything else that we need. So yeah, this one is just like that. And here we should pass also the context. And this is it. So let's repeat it again. When the request goes through this middleware, it will go here and then go to the second middleware. But whenever anything happens, this error will be catched over here. And what this one is going to do is check the type of this exception. If it's not supported or bad request, then set the error message to the message of this exception and the status code to bad request. Other than that, set something went wrong and internal server error. And then let's create a new operation error response. So this is what right now on the client side, you'll have a more efficient way to deal with those errors, because we are always going to receive operation error response. And then like this content as string equals, we just serialize this one into a string, and then we set the context.response.status code, the content type to application JSON, and we write that response back. Then this is it. So now let's close this one. And here I will stop this one basically. And what I'm going to do is over here, say app.use middleware, error handling middleware. So this is all what we need. Now to test that this one is working well, what I have to do is let's go to iUser profile and, or yeah, not to this one. Let's go for the API controllers, and within the weather forecast controller, this one is authorized. Let's go to, yeah, let's go to weather forecast controller, and over here I will set, I will say here through new like not found exception. This is a sample exception. So I'll set a breakpoint here, and I will also set a breakpoint here. And yeah, basically this is it. Let's go ahead and run the project to see if we are going to get this response, the same one. And also I will run Postman so we can see that how the response looks like every time we happen to run an exception. And then let's move to the next video, which is refactoring the iUser profile server that we have to retrieve only business or related object that we need. So here I should go to another workspace and yeah, try to use Git. Cool, now let's log in. Okay. Cool, here we are logged in. If we go to fetch data, this one, okay, here we go. Right now this exception will be thrown. So if I click F11, Okay, so here we go. You can see that right now this middleware directly handles this exception, and it will go for this function, check the type, it is this one. So then the message, this is a sample exception for, okay, good, retrieve that, and then this is what you are going to get. If we open, we see that we get 400 bad requests. So this means right now, any request made to the server, we are always going to accept operation error response. So that's much better. You are going to see that when we go to the client. But let's see here how the response looks like on this side. I'll go to authorization, and I will add period token. And then here, I should actually go through this exception just to see the, okay, this is not possible in this case, so let's do that and remove this from here just for now. So yeah, you can see that it's already retrieved. Let's take this token and paste it over here. Then stop. Let's set this exception back, run again, and then send this request. Because this is protected. We send it, okay, yeah, that's right. Keep going, remove this breakpoint, keep going, and here we go. You can see that we got a very pretty response, and this response is going to happen for all the cases that will happen in the system. So this is everything for error handling for now. Now the next step is to remove those operation response and this error and success from here, and then to see how we can use exceptions efficiently to make this works much smoother. So this is everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.